Hey guys, Coach Ring, Canyon Side Cages podcast. Today's guest, San Diego Padres prospect Nick Shulz. Spent the last 3 seasons in the minor leagues. Last year, he was up and down between AA and AAA. He hit a combined 18 home runs, had a phenomenal year at the plate with discipline. He really came through in a lot of clutch situations. We're going to talk to him about some of the changes he's made since 2014, graduating college, and some of the things that he works on in his daily routine. Hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for watching. All right, well, thanks for joining. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, this was your 3rd season in Pro Ball,
Correct.
correct? Obviously, you had an amazing season. You had 18 home runs between AA and AAA. You had a much more disciplined approach, it looked like. It looked like there was a sense of you coming through in clutch situations a lot more and really, bringing that big hit to the table a lot of times. And so I wanted to talk about, the first question is just some of the changes in your mechanics over the last 3 years that have allowed you to have the success you've had, with the 18 home runs in AA and AAA last year, and kind of how that's going to lead you into this season.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, in college and kind of like my first year in pro ball, I kind of had a very choppy swing, if you want to call it that. My hands would come in kind of steep into the zone, and so what that means is I kind of hit a lot more like low line drives, which is good, but like kind of a lot of ground balls, which is what I kind of wanted to eliminate from my game, because I kind of self-evaluated myself and told my, looked at myself and said, look, you're 6'2", 220 pounds. If you want to be playing this game, you got to be able to drive the baseball and hit balls in the gap. And so I try to find a way to incorporate that into my game and adjust to that. So I think after my first year of pro ball, I kind of started having a little bit of a leg kick, because I know in college I kind of wanted to try to get my foot down. They were really big on trying to get the foot down and trying to be on time, and I think I kind of overthought that. So
Right.
I just kind of wanted to get in a good rhythm and a good flow. So when I incorporated the leg kick, I was able to get into my back hip and my backside a little bit longer, and then it was helping me be able to transfer my weight into the baseball and help me drive the baseball. So I started doing that, and I think that really was the biggest difference, was just trying to incorporate a leg kick and just trying to be on flow and just trying to be on time with everything. So and just not trying to do too much and just kind of letting everything happen.
Definitely. So, looking at some of the video from you last year, your leg kick didn't change much. It was pretty similar every day. That's one of the things that most guys don't notice behind the scenes. How are you able to adjust that leg kick? When a guy's throwing an off-speed pitch, or say you got a guy, throwing 84 or 85 one day compared to maybe 92, 93. How are you able to kind of learn to have that rhythm? Because I say that's one of the biggest problems with guys that learn a leg kick, is they don't understand, how to adjust.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, every pitcher's different. Some guys are going to throw harder, some guys are going to not throw as hard. So I think, it's just all about having body awareness and kind of knowing, like, yourself as a hitter. And just, I mean, like, if the guy's going to throw so hard, you can still have a leg kick and everything, but, if you got to let it obviously travel a little bit longer. So I think the biggest thing, if a guy is throwing slower, you have to, land, and then but also keep your hands back and just kind of ride out the backside and just let it eat. And obviously, when a guy's throwing harder, you want to, shorten it down a little bit, because you want to be on time and catch everything out in front. So
Definitely.
it just depends, with certain situations and with certain pitchers. You could be facing a guy that's throwing sidearm or submarine. You got to adjust to that. But yeah, as long as you can find a rhythm for yourself, I think that'll be definitely the biggest thing and what's going to be comfortable for you.
Yeah, that's a great point because a lot of people think that the leg kick has to be the exact same every time, and you know,
It doesn't have to be.
so and that's one of the things that you have to be able to do as a hitter. And it's what you're saying. It's a
Yeah.
great point. Is you have to be able to adapt, and you have to have that adjustability because there's constant change. So that will lead into my next question. When you were in the shop, we talked about some of you mentioned it now and being a little more steep in your swing. How
Yeah.
are you able to learn how to get a better attack angle, which led to you driving the ball this year?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing was my load. I felt like I was kind of jumpy, which kind of led me to be a little more pushy off my backside. So I think what happened was, I mean, I wanted to get more. I kind of thought to myself in my head was just like get more into my back hip rather than like loading so much on the backside, but getting into your back hip that way, your weight is still on your instep of your backside. So then what happens is when you start transferring your weight forward, you're more centered, you're more into the ground, and then now your legs are working underneath you, and now your hands are just kind of naturally just riding them through instead of like, if you're pushy, you'll drop your barrel, or if you're kind of falling forward, your hands will come in steep. So if I think that was my biggest problem was just kind of like figuring out what would work for me the best to get to get myself in a good position to hit. And I think getting into my back hip, focusing on that, has really kind of turned everything around for me. Like especially with power. But yeah, I mean, it's. I think, like I said, like if your legs are working properly throughout your swing and before your swing, it's gonna be a huge difference in the world. And I didn't learn that in college. I thought in college it was just all hands and like just if these are working good, I'll get away with everything, and that's why I didn't have a lot of power numbers in college because I was just kind of slapping everything.
It's interesting to hear that because I'm not sure most people would answer that when if I asked them, well, what did you do to create a better attack angle? Well, a lot of people would say, well, I just worked on my upper half, and it's amazing, how people miss that first part, and that first part of the swing can be so important
Yep,
and give you a better ability to attack on the plane that you want to attack. So,
exactly.
based on what you're saying, it's if the listeners are hearing you got to have rhythm, and you've got to learn to ride out that backside and not be jumpy because when you get jumpy, it really affects your bat path and doesn't allow you to kind of work on plane.
Right, and I'm still working on it today too. And I've been incorporating this like for the last year or two. So I'm still trying to fight old habits. So
Definitely.
it's tough, but if people can figure that out or players can figure that out, like the sooner the better. It's going to be great. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that's great advice, man, because you hear a lot of hitters talking about that these days, like take the hands out of it. You hear Altuve and guys that are not the biggest players even talking about take the hands out of it. So,
absolutely.
you know, as a coach, I'm curious how a hitter like you kind of makes that transition when you've been hitting for so long a certain way. Are there drills that you do, in your routine every day that kind of are specific to what you're talking about, and do they change daily, or you're doing a certain set of drills, kind of like for last year when you were able to keep that consistency?
Um, I think just I'm not really a big drill guy because the drills kind of get in my own head a little bit. I'm kind of more of like I can when I'm doing like soft toss and front toss, I can feel everything that's going on in my body. So it's like because it's soft toss, it's like the ball's coming at you like at 20 miles an hour. So you can kind of think a little bit as you're going throughout your work. That this is just for me, but I think with soft toss too, like side toss, that'll kind of gives me a feel of like what's going on with my body. Like I'll be able to tell if I'm rotating off and like instead of driving through the baseball. But yeah, no, I don't really have any drills. I just kind of, like I said, I'm just kind of more of a feel guy. So
No, that's great, man. I think it gets to a point where if you can feel your swing and
yeah,
you can feel what your body's doing without drills, that's huge, man. And so
yeah,
that's something that I want everyone to hear. You know, when you're doing things like front toss, you know, it's especially important to kind of feel what you're doing and not just blindly try to hit the ball and just try to hit it as hard as you can. I mean, it's a time for adjustments. It's a time for feel, like you said. And if there's need to add in a drill or something that helps you feel the movement even better, and that works for some guys also. But yeah, if you can get to the point where at soft toss, it's
yeah.
you're feeling it. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and going back to that too, like sometimes, like I'll have goals throughout, like a soft toss station or a front toss station. It's like I don't want to. So, like for front toss, like for a couple rounds, like I don't want to pull any balls. I want to everything's got to be straight up the middle or even right center, even on balls in. That way, I'm kind of working in a straight line and just kind of feeling what's going on. And if something's if I'm top spinning balls, okay, then I'll kind of take a breather and like think about what just happened, and then I'll regroup and then go back in again and try to fix it right away.
Definitely. And
So
that resulted, that direction and everything you're talking about really had it showed on the field. It gave you power to all fields last year. You were spraying the ball to all fields. So real quick for next season,
yeah,
what are some of your goals for the 2018 season? What are you looking to do?
sure. Well, I think. Are we going statistic wise, or are we
Yeah,
going like approach
anything
wise?
because I think
Okay, anything. Okay,
that's important for a lot of high school players. A lot of young kids don't set goals, so whatever you
right,
can give
sure.
them, that'd be great.
Okay, well, for everyday goals, I'll start with that. Everyday goals. I want to be. I don't want to take a single pitch off. I want to be locked in every single pitch because the higher you get with Double A and Triple A, you know, they're too good. The pitchers are really, really good, and they know how to set you up. And Double A, Triple A, you're almost at the big leagues. So like, this is like the time to prepare for the big leagues. So guys are setting you up really well. They know how to nitpick you. Um, so that's one goal I have is to not take a single pitch off. The second goal would be try to reduce my slumps. So whether that would be after a game, just go do something to take my mind off baseball. Just look for an alternative outside of baseball because we're playing 160 or 100. I'm sorry, 140 something games. I think it's 140 games out of the year, 6 months of the year, and that's a lot of baseball and can take a toll on you. And you only get like 8, 9 off days. So I think finding an alternative is very, very important because I think sometimes I'd get in my own head if something wasn't feeling right after every game. I would just be really hard on myself. Be like, why am I doing this? Why? And I'd think about it all night and I wouldn't sleep. So I think if I just kind of got my mind off baseball after like say a bad game, if I went like 0 for 4, 3 Ks or something like that, go find an alternative. Get your mind off it, and then turn the page. So it's it's another day of baseball. You get another opportunity the next day, which is the greatest thing about it. Third, I would say, let's see. I would say focus on breathing. Sometimes like I'll catch myself in at bat where I get kind of emotionally attached to a bad at bat or I swing at a bad pitch. I would say try to focus on breathing a little bit better. Just stay in the present moment. Who cares what other people think? Like, so what? This next pitch. Get to the next pitch. What's important now? And that's I think breathing and staying in the present moment is probably my third goal. Statistically, oh boy, I mean, screw it. I mean, like I have high standards for myself, so I'm trying to hit 300 with probably 30 bombs. So that's. I mean, it. Who knows? It kind of sounds unrealistic, but you know what? I'm going to shoot for it because anything is possible. So there it is, 300 with 30 bombs, maybe 30 bags. So
Yeah, if people aren't laughing at your dreams, they're not big enough, man. I think
exactly.
who was that? Bryce Harper said that, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. No, I mean
So,
it's something you're totally capable of, and it's something that I think young kids need to see because when you set the bar high for yourself, it's not that you have to achieve exactly every single goal to the specific, setting that you have it at, but it gives you something to reach for, and it gives you a platform, to kind of set the mark, and if at a point during the season, you need to reassess your goal a little bit, or you need to set a new goal,
right.
that's totally that works. So I think that
Absolutely.
was one of the best things I've heard on all of our podcasts so far, man, for the hitters. Um, this is more of like a fun question.
Sure.
As a Padres fan, and we got a lot of Padres fan watching this podcast. There's going to be a lot of prospects, including yourself, coming through the system in the next couple of years. Can you name a few guys besides yourself that
Yeah.
have been really fun to play with? And because we talked about this at the shop, and
Yeah.
I would love to hear your perspective a little bit.
Yeah, sure. No, we got a lot of great group of guys, which is always fun to be around. So I think when we have a lot of characters in the system, it makes everything a lot more fun and a lot easier.
Right.
Uh, but like when we hit the field, it's we take our business seriously. But like off the field, we keep everything loose and fun. So some of the guys that are going to big league camp, like Jake Nix, he's a pitcher for us. Great guy. Um, talented overall pitcher. Who else? Luis Urias, second baseman. He's outstanding player. Probably the best 19-year-old I've ever seen. He was up in Double A the whole year, and he was just incredible, man. I mean, he's the real deal, and I think he's going to be probably in the big league sometime this year. And another guy that's really good too is Fernando Tatis Jr. I think he's our number one prospect, and he showed some time in Double A little bit last year, and he's got all the talent in the world. All raw talent all around, fielding, hitting, throwing. He's got a good arm. And I'm excited too because I think we're gonna start turning things around in San Diego with the up and coming prospects.
Definitely. Well, yeah, like I said, as a fan, I mean, this is fun for me to be able to talk to you and fun to hear about the future, and it's definitely going to be fun for Padres fans in the next couple of years to get a chance to see some of these young guys. Well, last couple questions, man.
Sure.
You've played at almost every level of the minor leagues. I mean, I don't know if you've played every level of the A ball, but you've been in A, Double A, and Triple A.
Mm-hmm.
Give our listeners some of the differences that you've experienced and how you transitioning kind of from Double A to Triple A last year and kind of going back and forth a little bit.
Sure.
Some of the things that you experienced and some of the difficulties or things that you learned, even stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in Double A, that's kind of like where the toe meets the rubber. It's not like A ball, like low A, high A, which is like kind of like a lot of variety of people. Like everyone almost kind of gets to low A or high A at some point in their career, and then Double A. That's kind of like where the toe meets the rubber. Like this is where like true talent starts to come out. Like Double A is where a lot of all the prospects are at. A lot of talent, a lot of good dudes that are gonna be like dudes in the big leagues. And Double A is kind of like the level like where the talent's there, and they're still trying to like clean it up a little bit. They're trying to clean up their game just a little bit. There's something that's not quite there that's making them go to the AAA or big leagues. So they need to find that out for themselves and try to work on that. That way they can advance to the next level. AAA is a lot of veterans, a lot of guys that have big league time. The travel's a lot different. You're actually flying everywhere. So when you get done with the game, let's say 10 o'clock or so, you get back to your apartment or your hotel or wherever you're staying at, and then you got to get up at 3:30 in the morning to catch the first flight out. So it's the travel's definitely a grind, But the cool thing is that you get to go all over the place. Like we go to like Memphis, Nashville, Tacoma, Round Rock, Oklahoma City, uh, places like that. And that part's really cool. You kind of get to see the world. But it's a lot different because in AAA, you're playing with and against guys that have some big league time, and some guys have families, some guys have wives and kids, so they're taking their job very, very seriously.
Uh-huh.
And I think they're more mature up in AAA. AA, you still kind of have like your young guns, your young top prospects.
Nice.
So I think that's kind of the biggest difference. The travel's different, and then you're playing with guys, with and against guys that have big league time, and they're taking their job way more seriously.
Nice. Thanks for joining me, Nick. I appreciate your time, bro. I mean, I can't explain how valuable some of this information is for our young listeners, and even for our Padres fans.
Yep.
to hear how the future is going to be, and it's awesome to have a young stud like you guys, in the system. And hey, all the best this year, man. We're going to be following you for sure, and best of luck. I hope to see you in a big league uniform, man.